There are many ways to kill a man. You can defeat him in battle. You can poison him. You can execute him. But there is something far more devastating. You can make him believe that the people standing beside him are his friends, and then convince him that they are not. On the 15th of March 44 BC, one of the most powerful men in the ancient world walked into a building believing he was entering a political meeting. He would never walk out. His name was Julius Caesar. He had conquered vast territories. He had defeated powerful enemies. He had crossed the Rubicon and changed the course of Roman history. And yet, when Caesar finally fell, it wasn't a foreign army that destroyed him. It wasn't a barbarian invasion. It wasn't even a rival king. It was a group of men he knew, men he had forgiven, men he had trusted. And among them was a man Caesar may have regarded almost like a son. His name was Marcus Junius Brutus. The assassination of Caesar is often remembered as a simple story. A dictator becomes too powerful. The senators fear him. They conspire. They stab him. But the truth is much darker. Because this wasn't simply an assassination. It was a betrayal. And its consequences would transform Rome forever. So how did the greatest republic the ancient world had ever known reach the point where its own leaders decided that murder was the only solution? And perhaps more importantly, why did some of the men closest to Caesar decide to turn against him? This is the story of the great betrayal that changed history forever. To understand the betrayal, we first need to understand the man who was betrayed. Julius Caesar was born in 100 BC into an old Roman family. His family claimed ancient aristocratic origins. But Caesar was not born as the most powerful man in Rome. He had to fight for his position. And he understood something that many Roman politicians did not. Power was not simply inherited. Power had to be created. Caesar built his reputation through military success, political alliances, and an extraordinary ability to understand people. He was ambitious, extremely ambitious, and Rome was the perfect place for ambitious men. The Roman Republic was already under enormous pressure. Political factions fought constantly. The wealthy competed for influence. The poor demanded reforms. Generals accumulated enormous armies and personal loyalty. And Rome was expanding faster than its political system could handle. Caesar eventually formed an alliance with two other powerful men, Pompey the Great and Marcus Licinius Crassus. Together they became known as the First Triumvirate. It was not an official government. It was something more dangerous. A private agreement between men powerful enough to influence the Republic itself. Caesar then went to Gaul. And there, his reputation exploded. For years he fought campaign after campaign. He defeated tribes, crossed rivers, built bridges, moved armies with extraordinary speed, and eventually conquered vast territories. But Caesar did something else. He told the story. He wrote about his campaigns. He presented himself as the brilliant commander who brought glory and security to Rome. His soldiers became fiercely loyal to him. And that loyalty would eventually become one of the greatest threats to the Roman political system. Because Caesar was no longer simply a politician. He was a politician, with an army. Then came the moment that changed everything. The Roman Senate ordered Caesar to give up his command. He was expected to return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar understood the danger. Without his army, his political enemies could destroy him. His career could end. His property could be confiscated. He could even be prosecuted. So Caesar made a decision that would echo through history. He crossed the Rubicon. The river marked the boundary between Caesar's province and Italy. Roman generals were forbidden from bringing their armies into Italy without permission. By crossing it, Caesar was effectively declaring war on the Republic. According to later tradition, Caesar said, "The die is cast." Whether he actually said those exact words is uncertain. But the decision was real. Rome was now heading towards civil war. Caesar's army advanced. His opponents fled. And eventually, Caesar won. The Republic had survived countless wars. But it had never recovered from this one. Caesar became the dominant political figure in Rome. He was appointed dictator, then dictator for longer periods. Eventually, he was named Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life. And this is where the story becomes complicated. Because Caesar did not behave like a simple monster. He introduced reforms. He reorganized the calendar. He settled veterans. He granted citizenship. He attempted to reduce certain abuses. He pardoned many former enemies. And this last point would become extremely important. Because among the people Caesar chose to forgive were men who would eventually help kill him. Marcus Junius Brutus was not simply another Roman senator. He carried a name and that name carried an ideology. Brutus' ancestors were associated with the foundation of the Roman Republic. According to Roman tradition, Lucius Junius Brutus had helped overthrow Rome's last king. The story became part of Rome's political mythology. Rome had once been ruled by kings. The Romans believed they had liberated themselves from monarchy, and the republic became sacred. To many Romans, the idea of one man becoming king was almost unbearable. Brutus grew up surrounded by these ideas. He studied philosophy. He was influenced by Stoicism. He believed in virtue, duty, and self-control. But Brutus was also a politician, and politics creates contradictions. During the Civil War, Brutus initially supported Pompey against Caesar. Then Caesar defeated Pompey. Brutus had chosen the losing side. Yet Caesar did something extraordinary. He forgave him. Not only did Caesar spare Brutus, he brought him back into public life. He trusted him. And Brutus eventually became one of the most respected men in Rome. This created a strange relationship. Caesar had conquered Brutus politically, but he had also shown him mercy. And this is one of the deepest ironies of the entire story. The man who would help kill Caesar was a man Caesar had chosen not to kill. So what changed? Why would Brutus turn against the man who had spared him? The answer lies in a fear that haunted the Roman elite: kingship. Caesar's power was becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish from monarchy. He received extraordinary honors. His image appeared in public. His influence reached every part of Roman politics. And then came one of the most important moments. During the festival of the Lupercalia in 44 BC, Caesar was offered a diadem, a symbol associated with kingship. According to ancient accounts, Caesar rejected it. The crowd reacted enthusiastically, but the episode demonstrated something important. The question was no longer, could Caesar become king? How close was Caesar to becoming one? To ordinary Romans, this might not have seemed like an immediate catastrophe. But to senators steeped in the memory of the Republic, it was terrifying. If Caesar became king, what would happen to the Senate? What would happen to political freedom? What would happen to the Republic? And perhaps most importantly, what would happen to Rome after Caesar died? Because a political system dependent on one extraordinary man is fragile. And Caesar's enemies believed that the Republic itself was already dying. They began to convince themselves of something extraordinary, that killing one man might save millions. This is where betrayal becomes psychologically dangerous, because almost every betrayal requires a justification. The betrayer rarely thinks, "I am the villain." Instead they think, "I am doing what must be done." And that belief would soon lead the conspirators into one of the most famous assassinations in history. The conspiracy grew. The exact number of conspirators is uncertain, but dozens were involved or connected to the plot. Among the most famous were Cassius, Brutus, Decimus Brutus, and others who believed Caesar had to die. Cassius was particularly important. He had personal grievances against Caesar, but he also understood something. A conspiracy could not simply be an act of hatred. It needed a symbol, and Brutus was that symbol. Brutus had the right name, the right ancestry, the right reputation. If Brutus joined the conspiracy, the assassination could be presented as an act of republican virtue, not murder, liberation. This distinction mattered. The conspirators were not simply planning how to kill Caesar. They were planning how history would remember the killing. They discussed where to strike, how to isolate Caesar, how many men should participate, and perhaps most importantly, how to prevent Caesar's supporters from immediately taking revenge. They eventually chose the Senate, the Ides of March, March 15, 44 BC. The plan was set, but there was one problem. Caesar had apparently received warnings. Ancient sources tell us of omens, dreams, and messages warning him of danger. Some stories are probably legendary. Others may preserve real memories of the atmosphere surrounding Caesar. Either way, the irony is almost unbearable. The most powerful man in Rome was surrounded by people plotting his death, and yet he walked directly towards them. The morning of March 15th began like any other political day. Caesar prepared to attend a Senate meeting. But according to ancient accounts, his wife Calpurnia had experienced disturbing dreams. She reportedly begged him not to go. Caesar hesitated. For a moment, perhaps he considered staying home. But eventually he went. He entered the meeting place. The conspirators were waiting. Imagine the scene. Dozens of senators. Men dressed in the traditional clothing of Rome's political elite. Men who had smiled at Caesar. Men who had spoken with him. Men who had eaten with him. And among them, Brutus. Caesar took his place. The conspirators approached him under the pretense of presenting a petition. Caesar refused. Then another man moved closer, and suddenly, the first blade appeared. Caesar was attacked. The assassination descended into chaos. One stab, then another, then another. The conspirators crowded around him. Caesar attempted to defend himself. He may have initially resisted, but eventually, surrounded by his attackers, he realized that resistance was impossible. Ancient sources tell us that Caesar saw Brutus among the assassins. And here we reach one of history's most famous quotations. Et tu son Brut? You too, Brutus? But there is a problem. There is no reliable evidence that Caesar actually said those exact words. The phrase comes from Shakespeare's play. Ancient writers give different accounts. Some say Caesar spoke Greek. Some say he said nothing. Some suggest he simply pulled his toga over his face. So the famous line may be fiction. But the emotion behind it captures something historically plausible. The betrayal by Brutus was powerful precisely because Caesar had trusted him. Caesar fell, and the assassins stood over his body. They had achieved their objective. The dictator was dead, but they had made one enormous mistake. They had killed the man, without destroying the system that supported him. The conspirators believed they had saved the Republic. But Rome did not respond the way they expected. There was no immediate return to Republican harmony. Instead, there was uncertainty, fear, anger, and eventually, revenge. Caesar's supporters remained. His soldiers remained. And one young man was about to enter the story. His name was Octavian. He was Caesar's adopted heir. At the time, he was only 18. He did not initially look like the most dangerous man in Rome. But that would change. Caesar's funeral became a turning point. His will reportedly left gifts to Roman citizens. He also made Octavian his heir. The Roman people were reminded of what Caesar had done for them, and public emotion turned against the assassins. The men who had claimed to be liberators increasingly looked like murderers. Brutus and Cassius were forced to leave Rome. The republic they claimed to have saved was falling apart. Then came another civil war. Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, the three men formed the Second Triumvirate, and they began hunting Caesar's assassins. Eventually, Brutus and Cassius assembled armies. The conflict culminated at Philippi in 42 BC. The Republican cause was defeated. Cassius died. Brutus eventually took his own life. And with him, one of the last major hopes of restoring the old republic died as well. But the story was not over. Caesar had been dead for 2 years. Yet his death had created the man who would ultimately inherit Rome. Octavian defeated his rivals. He accumulated power, and eventually became Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The irony is extraordinary. The conspirators killed Caesar because they feared the end of the Republic. But Caesar's assassination helped create the conditions for something even more permanent. The Roman Empire, the republic they wanted to save, did not return. Instead, Rome entered a new political age. And Augustus would rule through a carefully constructed system that preserved the appearance of republican institutions while concentrating enormous power in his own hands. The conspirators had killed Caesar to prevent monarchy. And within a generation, Rome had an emperor. The betrayal had failed, but its consequences succeeded. So what can we learn from the betrayal of Julius Caesar? Perhaps the first lesson is that political violence rarely produces the future its perpetrators imagine. The conspirators believed that removing one man would restore a system. Instead, they created a vacuum, and someone else filled it. The second lesson is even darker. People rarely betray others simply because they hate them. Sometimes, they betray people because they believe they are saving something greater. The conspirators believed they were saving Rome. Brutus believed he was defending an ideal. But ideals can become dangerous when they convince us that almost anything is justified. And then there is the final lesson, perhaps the most important one. Power does not disappear when a powerful person dies. It changes hands. Caesar's assassination did not destroy ambition. It did not eliminate political conflict. It did not restore trust. It simply created a struggle over who would inherit the power Caesar had accumulated. And in the end, Octavian won. The Republic died, and the Roman Empire was born. That is why the story of Caesar's assassination is more than a story about a man being stabbed by his enemies. It is a story about trust, ambition, fear, ideology, and the extraordinary consequences of believing that one violent act can repair a broken political system. Brutus thought he was killing a dictator. Instead, he helped create an empire. And perhaps that is the greatest irony of all. The men who betrayed Caesar wanted to change history. They succeeded, just not in the way they intended. Because sometimes, the greatest betrayals in history are not remembered for what they destroyed. They are remembered for what they accidentally created. And if you want to understand the men who shaped Rome's next chapter, the story does not end with Caesar. It begins with the young man who inherited his name, his enemies, and his ambition. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more of the events, ideas, and people that shaped our world, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. There are countless stories in history that reveal something about human nature, ambition, power, betrayal, and the consequences of our choices. So, if you want to explore more of them with us, subscribe and join us for the next chapter of history.